Welcome to TV Toastmasters. I'm your host. My name is Deb Hart. I have a nonprofit called Pink Sistas. Look us up, pinksistas.org. I belong to the Gresham Toastmasters. Yes, we meet every Wednesday at 6:30 a.m. Did I say 6:30 a.m.? I meant 6:30 a.m. And if you're looking for a club, come and join our club. It's a very fun club. Today I have a guest I'm going to be sharing with you. Her name is Beth Kandell. And I'm so excited to share some of the amazing knowledge that she has about health and wellness. Please welcome Beth Kandell.
Nice to be here, Deb. Pleasure.
Thank you. Who is Beth?
My gosh, who am I? Well, I am into healthy eating, and for the longest time I have been healing myself with whole food. From a very early age, I realized that I felt better when I would eat certain things, and conversely, I would feel terrible if I ate other things. Okay. So my mind always has gone there for the last several years. When I lived in Los Angeles up until 4 years ago, I got involved with selling meats and seafoods, organic meats and seafoods, as well as creating cleanses for people who wanted to stay healthy and detox. And that was my business then. And then 4 years ago, my husband took me screaming and yelling to the gorge because I loved Los Angeles, but I quickly fell in love with it. And 4 years ago, I didn't quite know what the community would need. I knew that the cleanses were not appropriate because they were quite expensive. And I wanted to get a sense of what was going on in the community to see where I could help, because I'm all about helping people. So what happened was, after about a year and a half, I started recognizing a lot of even young people in their 30s, in addition to people our ages, were having health issues, autoimmune problems, cancer, digestive issues, diverticulitis, and just an array of health issues. And they weren't, I also found that they really weren't eating properly. So about the same time, bone broth was becoming very popular. I was all over Facebook, and I'd heard about it even back in Los Angeles when somebody called me with brain cancer. And she was looking for marrow bones because I, at the time, was selling grass-fed beef. So I ended up hooking her up with my source so she could get them for free. But what it did do was it opened up my eyes to look into the benefits. Why was she asking me about bone broth and marrow bones? So I became very familiar, and then when I came and I moved here, I had, with all of the influx of, popularity promotion of bone broth, I looked and I found that there wasn't really anybody on the Washington side that was making local bone broth. It was in Portland, it was a little bit in Hood River, but I said, I can make a difference in this community. I can make bone broth and help heal people. So that's what I did.
Where do you do this at? Where is this kitchen at?
Well, it was a commercial kitchen. I actually converted my mudroom into a commercial kitchen. So I am set up with 5 Instapots with big 25-quart pressure cookers, and I roast my bones. And I pressure cook this bone broth for about 8 hours, which is the equivalent of about a day and a half. Let me tell you how this process works so you get a true understanding of the benefits and how I make it. Okay. Because I make a medicinal drink, if you will. Okay. Anything I can to help heal the body and make it as medicinal as possible. And by that what I mean is I use alkaline ionized water, which is basically that particular water comes from a machine. It reclusters the water molecules because it goes through a titanium plate. So it's much easier for the body to absorb, and it really hydrates the body. Okay. So that's the water I use in my broth. I also add turmeric and maitake mushrooms, both of which have very high anti-inflammatory properties. Let's talk about the bone marrow that I roast and I put in the pots. Bone marrow is, especially grass-fed, grass-finished bone marrow, has a very high level of conjugated linoleic acid, What CLA is, it's a cancer-fighting fat, and it's found mostly, the high amount of it is in mostly grass-fed, grass-finished animals that have never eaten grain. Bison, elk, deer, cow that have been grass-fed and grass-finished.
Okay.
What this fat does is it's got a dense amount of minerals and vitamins, and the CLA is what you call, it's a naturally occurring amino acid. So that's what you're getting from the bones, which in the pot we have apple cider vinegar that is extracting the minerals from the bones. So we're talking proline, hyaluronic acid, glycine, glucosamine, chondroitin. So not only will it heal, does it help fight the cancer and replenish the nutrients and the minerals that the chemotherapy is taking out, but it also cushions the joints. It lines the gut and fills in spackles the holes in the gut. Oftentimes people that have used a lot of antibiotics, or they've got a bacterial infection, or just age, eating improperly, their gut lining stretches out and the food particles fall through the holes, which causes autoimmune because the body starts attacking the food. It's an alien thing to them. So there are just so many benefits, but in particular for the cancer patients, it gives them energy. It makes them hungry again because they're getting minerals and amino acids that their body is just not getting from the depleted food that they're just not taking it in because they're not hungry. So
if I was to share with my breast cancer retreat guests,
sure.
The first question they would ask is, how often should I do bone broth?
Drink it?
Yeah.
You know, bone broth, you can't drink too much of it.
Okay.
I will say that it's very viscous. I do strain a lot of the fat out, but I do leave enough in so it can be drank with the broth, because that is the healing, that's got all of the cancer-fighting properties. So, you know, it's dense. I mean, it tastes amazing. For all of my years in doing cleanses and such, I got very good at making soups. So I make sure this bone broth is very tasty. In fact, many people do say that it's the best bone broth that they've ever had. But I would say at least 8 to 16 ounces a day. And what's going to happen as they drink that amount on a regular basis, they're going to feel energy, they're going to feel great, and they're going to crave it, is what's going to happen.
So they're going to want to drink this probably every day. Can you freeze it?
Yes, actually when I make it, I do freeze it. It's frozen in quart containers. So basically when they finish up their quart, and it will last in the refrigerator up to 2 weeks actually, because you have the fat cap on it, and you just take out what you need and heat it in your little saucepan, get it warm, and drink it. I drink it first thing in the morning before my coffee. Because for me, you know, we're all getting older, and I've been drinking bone broth. Let me just segue. I've been making bone broth for about 2 years. I've noticed such improvements just in my general overall body. My gums, I have no more recession, no more pockets. My skin is much clearer. My energy is through the roof. You'll just see progressively more and more things. The skin irritations go away, that kind of thing. So,
how many ounces a day do you drink?
I drink 8 ounces first thing in the morning, and oftentimes I will drink at night as well because it will help me go to sleep. It's just got a lot of wonderful benefits to it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. And you do this at your house. Do you have any help that helps you with this?
I do.
Good.
We're in a number of grocery stores now, and I do have somebody who's helping me make the broth. It's hard for me to stand for, 10 hours at a time, but I do a lot of promoting, and I have staff who does the work for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So where could we find more information?
You can look at my website, which is www.simplyfinegourmet.com.
Okay.
And I also happen to have a bed and breakfast, so you can find information on my bed and breakfast as well. We are located in the Gorge. What
part of the Gorge?
We're in Stevenson.
Okay.
So we are We're right across the river from Hood River, about 40 minutes from Portland, and about 45 minutes from Vancouver area.
Go across that Bridge of the Gods.
Go across the Bridge of the Gods, exactly. Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on
I really
the
enjoyed
TV
this.
Toastmasters today.
Sure.
And I really appreciate learning and you educating myself and the viewers.
Very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Beth. Thanks again for being on the show with me, your host, Deb Hart, at pinksistas.org. Until we meet again, bye-bye for now.
Welcome back to our show. My name is Charles. I belong to New Horizons Toastmasters Club in Wantz, Oregon. If you're looking for a club, we invite you. And today on the show we have Deb Hart. She is a retreat facilitator, founder of Pink Sisters. She also is a keynote speaker. She's here to talk about moving from desperation to inspiration. Deb Hart, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Nice to have you. This is the second time we have met. The first time was here in the studio, from what I remember.
Was.
Yeah.
We did a workshop together.
Yeah, it was fun. It was nice. And it's good to see that you're wearing pink again.
Yes, I am. I have a broken wrist right now, so there'd only be one color for me. That would be pink.
Great. Well, nice to have you here. You'll talk more about what pink really means to you and how it is of value to the viewers here. So who is Deb Hart? Please tell us about your story, how you moved from desperation to inspiration.
Well, in 2006, I lost my son, Casey. He was 22 years old, and he was a tugboat captain. He was in Anchorage. They found him dead on the boat, no apparent reason. And we had 2 autopsies. We'll never know exactly what happened to Casey. But with that came, 7 months later, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. My whole world was just tipped upside down. I became very bitter and very angry. And I stayed bitter and angry for about 4 years. Then I had an opportunity to go on a healing trip to Greece with 9 other moms who had lost a child. It was so transforming. I knew exactly what I needed to do when I got home from that 10-day trip to Greece. It was just about helping other women. It was about starting a nonprofit and taking the bright light off myself and focusing on helping other people. And that's when I started Pink Sisters. We're a nonprofit for breast cancer survivors. And what we do is we help them with their self-esteem.
I love that. I love that. I think this message is good for the viewers. We've all had loss. We all gone through grief. I had a grandmother who died from cancer, and I lost my mother not too long ago. So I appreciate you sharing your story. Let's talk about the 3 areas that you work in. So you work as a keynote speaker, also as a retreat facilitator, and you work alongside with Pink Sisters. Can you kind of explain in detail what those areas in which you work in?
Well, the keynote speaking came from, my first stop was Toastmasters. And that was about 10, 11 years ago out in Oregon City. And when I went there, all I would do is just sit and not talk and almost cry. I was so scared.
Wow.
I never, ever wanted to speak in front of a group of 5 or 500. But I had a story to share. And every time I got to share my story, I healed just a little tiny bit more. And then with Pink Sisters, what I do for Pink Sisters is I'm the director. I'm the founder of Pink Sisters. And what we do is we do 3-day retreats on the weekends. About 70 women get to go through our program. And we build their self-esteem. We teach them how to paddleboard and kayak, make some jewelry, do some yoga. And our retreat house is right down here at Big Eddy on Marine Drive on the Columbia River. It's a big, beautiful floating home that we do our retreats in. And it's free.
Free.
Did
That's
I
great.
tell you it's free? It's free.
I love that. It's good. That's an important thing that it's free. It
Yes.
sounds like you're having a lot of fun too with it being free too.
We do have a lot of fun.
That's great. Let's talk about loss and grief. You said that before on our phone conversations that loss and grief are different. So can you explain that, the differences between the two?
Well, for me, grief has come from Casey's death, and not only that, but the grief of losing my health from breast cancer, losing my breast from breast cancer, losing who I was as Deb Hart, and becoming this new person. That is a huge part of loss. Grief also, in my world, has been the loss of this child. Never get over it. Always miss him. And that's exactly what grief is to me, and loss.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you.
We had talked also about the fact that actions speak louder than words. And I was just with a friend not too long ago who is actually dealing with depression. She said the same thing. So can you really kind of talk about that, how actions speak louder than words?
There are no words in most cases for you to share with me as a grieving mom or as a breast cancer survivor unless you've gone through it. So words, there are no words, but action. Were you there? Were you present? And don't give that person an opportunity to say, oh, no, Deb, you're so busy. It's okay, you don't need to come out to my house. You say, I'm coming. I'm in the neighborhood. I have gotten you a latte. I'm coming. And that just means sitting on the edge of the bed and being present. That's what action says.
I love it. I love it. So how do we stay in contact with you?
Well, Inspirational Deb Hart is my website. pinksistas.org is our nonprofit.
Great. Thank you. So we thank you for coming to the show. We heard her story, how she moved from desperation to inspiration. I want to thank her for coming to the show. We thank you for watching the show. I'm Charles Shambry again. Have an awesome, awesome day.
I joined Toastmasters to improve my speaking, listening, communication, and leadership skills.
Toastmasters gave me
incredible confidence,
confidence,
great listening skills,
poise,
great leadership skills,
leadership skills,
the ability to speak in public,
strength, a captive audience,
quality feedback from the more experienced Toastmasters.
Toastmasters really helped me improve my listening skills,
sales skills,
opportunities to go to different groups and widen my whole horizon.
Toastmasters has given me a more focused me, and I'm a much better listener. Toastmasters is fulfilling.
It's a great place to fail your way to success.
Wonderful way to meet people.
networking,
Strength. It's addictive.
It's a club of self-improvement.
It's an experience, it's a ride that you won't forget, and you'll enjoy it every step of the way.
Toastmasters helped me land a kick-butt job. I sang at one of my table topic speeches, and people liked it and applauded.
My business is doing great, and I'm very, very grateful to Toastmasters.
It's been a great experience for me.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters, for giving me so much confidence.
Thank you, Toastmasters, for everything.
Hi, welcome back. Good to be with you again. My name is Bill Maher from New Horizons Toastmasters Club. For a few minutes this evening, we're going to talk to James Wantz, who is a member of the club, as well as in a district position. We're going to be talking a little bit about pathways, which is what Toastmasters International has formulated for people to excel in their teaching and leadership skills, similar to what we've done in the past. James, thank you for joining me this evening, and I hope we can talk a little bit about pathways.
Absolutely.
I saw you do a presentation just a couple of days ago, and I really appreciated a couple of the pictures that you had to describe the legacy, which was train tracks. We basically had a communications track and a leadership track, and that's very familiar for those of us who've been in Toastmasters for even a little while. But now Toastmasters is providing pathways, and you provided a picture of a ski area.
Actually, it was Mount Everest.
Mount Everest.
Now, there probably are people skiing on Mount Everest, but the reason I chose the image of Mount Everest is because there are many different ways to get to the summit. And in fact, that image had over 10 different paths that were shown to get to the summit. And I figured it was the best visual metaphor for pathways. Because in the new pathways, the new educational program, there are 10 individual paths that any member can choose one of those paths and proceed all the way through the 5 different levels.
Before we get to talking about the individual paths, I want to see if there's similarities between the legacy and the new pathways. And I've dived into pathways a little bit. When you start with the legacy system, you have the competent communicator, and then you get to the advanced manuals. And there's a lot of options with the advanced manuals. They've done away with, from what I understand, the competent communicator, and they've kind of folded that into all of the different pathways. Would that be an accurate description?
That is true. That is true. The Pathways program takes all of the pieces of the legacy educational program and folds them into the 10 individual paths, as well as liberally sprinkles in brand new content that we haven't seen before. So the icebreaker speech, which everybody is familiar with from the CC manual being the first project that they do, is still the first project in every single path. Because Toastmasters believes, and I also do too, that each time you do your icebreaker speech, you're learning something new about yourself. Whether it's your presentation, whether it's your, I don't know, how you're received maybe. So that the first speech is the same, and then people are going to recognize researching your topic, doing evaluations. All of those pieces are pulled in from the legacy program and are resident within Pathways.
How does one get started navigating pathways?
That is one of the biggest changes for Toastmasters so far, because the legacy program was designed around manuals, actual manuals that we would use and take to our clubs. Pathways is designed as a completely interactive online environment. It lives on Toastmasters International website, so you can go to it on your tablet, your computer, or your laptop for that matter. Once you log in, you choose the Pathways and the Pathways educational program, and it takes you to what is called Basecamp, which is every single member's beginning point with their path and how they interact with an online curriculum. It's set up very much like the online curriculums that you have with colleges. Where people go in, choose projects, have assignments, finish those projects, and then have them checked off within Basecamp. The difference is that the entire interaction is in an online environment as opposed to printed material. Now, I'm a bit of a throwback. I want hard copy. And there is an option within the projects. You can print out the entire manual in a PDF format, and that's what I do.
Okay.
I download the PDF, I print it out, I take the hard copy with me to my club meeting so that I've got my paper, I've got my evaluations, I know exactly what's going on. Because I like the tangible feel of the paper in that regard.
I agree with you on that, and it does have a sense of security with that. Another aspect of the legacy system that I think there has some similarities with the Pathways is I do 10 speeches and I get another level of leadership or communication. Here I'm working for badges. Is it still 10 speeches kind of a thing?
It's actually much faster. Because with the legacy system, you'd have to do those 10 speeches before you'd be a competent communicator. With Pathways, you progress through 5 levels in each of the individual paths, and once you've completed a level, you receive the badge as a completion for that level. Well, level 1, which is the same for all paths, has 4 speeches and 1 evaluator role. So you give 4 speeches, you're serving as evaluator, and you've completed level 1 of your path. Level 2 then starts to take on unique characteristics of the individual path, and you start having specific projects that are related to which path you choose.
Great. Our time is just about up, and I thank you very much for your time in helping us begin to understand a larger picture of pathways. And I have started. I'm looking forward to it. I think it really is a good adjustment for Toastmasters as we begin the 21st century in a new dimension to Toastmasters International. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
If you have any information that you need regarding Toastmasters or pathways, go to toastmastersinternational.com, look for a Toastmasters Club, check out Pathways, find out Basecamp, and we hope to see you along your journey. Thank you very much for joining us.